another place in the Arctic this time.
We've been travelling south. We've come back down from the pack ice in the north where we saw the polar bear, all the way down past Longyearbyen, the capital, and we're now heading south.
We've been having a lot of lectures and looking a lot at the climate science.
And it's been really educational, I think, for both of us. We don't come from a science background, so also quite a challenge to understand really the complicated background to what's going on with our current climate situation. We looked at paleoclimatology, geology, and how climate change in the past, we can use that as a kind of model or indicator of what we might see if we continue to emit carbon at the rate we're doing at the moment.
What has been really great about today is our lecture, particularly on tipping points, where we've been learning about the 5 Arctic areas that we need to prevent climate disruption, such as the melting of the sea ice, melting of the Greenland ice caps,
the melting of the permafrost and releasing all the methane and carbon stored in that layer of permafrost, the dieback of the boreal forests, particularly in Siberia, and then finally the thermohaline circulation, so the kind of conveyor belt system where we get in England and Western Europe the warmer ocean currents from the Gulf of Mexico. And I mean, we learned today, and we've seen over the last week really, that the first tipping point, so the melting of the Arctic sea ice, we've already passed it. And that's really quite a frightening thing, because a tipping point in its very nature is where we reach a point whereby once we pass that, we're entering a whole new phase. So it's not that we can easily go back to how it was, it's completely changing what is here.
So along with our lectures, we've been doing a lot of sort of kind of like field trips in a way, which have been excellent. We've had beautiful weather, and as you can see sort of in the background, it's a really wonderful evening. And we've been learning a lot about glaciers, which we've been able to see the last couple of days. And glaciers, although they can't show exactly individually the effects of climate change, there's a trend that glaciers over the whole area in the Arctic region, their recession has demonstrated that they have been receding as a result of climate change.
And this is not just in the Arctic, actually, this is all across the world. So in Africa, particularly because of the obviously increased heat there, but all across the Arctic, just about every glacier here is receding. And we've had a few adventures where we've gone in the kind of speedboats, the small zodiacs, to look quite closely at, and it's so beautiful, they're so powerful, and because the front of them is always breaking back into the ocean, it has a kind of an energy to it which at any moment it could fall down, and that's really powerful. And
what I loved the most, was being able to hear the sound of the glaciers melting.
Yeah.
When you got up close, you could hear kind of like popping,
like a crackling.
As it was melting, which was sort of quite emotional, and thinking, wow, like one of the best things about being in the Arctic is hearing like the silence and listening to the noises of like the birds and just the air,
the wind.
And the wind.
Yeah.
To put this knowledge to practical use, we used one of the problems that we've been sort of encountering so far, was that we've been wanting to integrate this trip in a political sense, and the fact that we wanted to meet a Norwegian politician, and many of them declined our invitation, and so we really put this problem to the group, and we worked on a way of trying to make sure that we can meet the Norwegian Prime Minister.
And it was a really great way to put into practice what we've been learning, but also the real extreme kind of pleasure once you found that idea, putting it into reality. So we filmed a video which we sent off to the Prime Minister. Who knows what will happen, but also just to realise that what we were learning while doing it was what we're going to be practicing when we get home.